Puccinelli was born in Chicago, Illinois, and he attended the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana, where he earned a degree in finance about 10 years ago. Ryan has also had an entrepreneurial spirit and says he's been a natural salesman all his life. After graduating from the University of Illinois, he worked as a sales manager in Chicago, brokering freight, of all things. However, he knew he always wanted to be his own boss. At the end of 2007, Ryan co-founded IQ Office Products in Scottsdale, Arizona. 6 years later, and a lifelong of experiences, IQ understands the current market, but more importantly, has a keen focus on the future. In particular, how to maximize the use of technology and adapt to change in an ever-increasing effort to grow the business. With offices now in Phoenix and Houston, IQ is poised for rapid future growth. Pay attention, because he'll tell you how you too can scale your business by adapting to change and embracing technology. He currently lives in Scottsdale, Arizona with his wife, Peanut, and when he's not selling office products, Ryan loves to travel. You might even see him on a safari in Africa someplace, visiting the Taj Mahal in India, or maybe even dining atop the tallest building in Dubai the next time you go to Dubai. Please help me welcome Ryan Puccinelli.
So think about when everyone in the room was either getting into the business or starting their own business. Just a show of hands. How many people knew they really wanted to be in the office product business? Not too many. For me, it was a no-brainer. I was looking for a business that first and foremost was residual and a reorder business, but more importantly, was very sexy and extremely technology forward, so by default, I chose office products. So I just want to give you a little idea about how naive we actually were when we were starting our business. Everyone knows what this is. Standard issue carton copy paper, 92, 20 pound, right? How much have you ever sold carton copy paper for? Highest price? 35 bucks. 40. To give you an idea, guys, I sold a carton of copy paper for $140. And at that point in time, it was 10% below list. The customer bought it. And I think we all can agree this business would be a lot sexier if we were selling copy paper for $140. But pretty quickly, when we found out that copy paper was being sold for, between high 20s, high 30s, we really knew we were in trouble, and we had to embrace technology. Debt was mounting. This was at the beginning of 2008. Come September, stock market crashed. The times at the high margins that we never really had the fortune of seeing. We knew that those were gone. Customers weren't as loyal. Customers were price shopping. So what we were really looking to do in order to keep our business afloat, we had to embrace technology and adapt to change. So you think about, from a technology standpoint, everybody in this room has a different relationship with technology. We've got 3 distinct generations in this room. We have our baby boomers out there, 1965 and before. 65 to 1980 is what we call Gen X. And then my generation, which is Gen Y or the millennials, from the early 80s to the mid-90s. These generations, there's a fellow named Jason Dorsey. You guys might know him. He's a contributor to Success Magazine. Jason Dorsey's a guy that he's known as the Gen Y guy. And one thing he talks about consistently is that there's a very, majority of people think that our generation, Gen Y and Millennial, are tech savvy. At the end of the day, we're tech dependent. I have an iPhone, I have an iPad, I have a computer. I don't know how they work. I really don't care how they work. All I know is that I can't live without them. My business would not be where it's at without technology. Here at IQ, we're on pace this year. We'll do about $6.5 million in sales. We're growing, and we are pretty similar to the majority of companies out there. We're business to business. We just pound on doors, and I use technology to keep me able to focus on my customer first and foremost, and service the current, and selling business. So I want to really reiterate the pace of technology. The pace of technology is moving quicker than it ever has. More's happened in the last 5 years than probably the last 30 years combined. So I want you to, how many people in the room have a cell phone or a smartphone? All right, everybody. All right. So I want to just, we can talk about this phone. This phone was the first phone. This was released in 1990. This was a phone that, in 1981, the first cell phone was released by Motorola. A great year. Reagan was in office. It was the year I was born. So an awesome year. This right here was the second phone, was released in 1990. For a better part of a decade, that phone became standard. In the late 90s, this phone came out. I'm sure everyone remembers this phone. This was a pretty good phone. I didn't have it, but I know that a lot of people in the room probably did have this phone. Then the pace of technology started moving quicker and quicker. We moved to smaller cell phones. Brands were changing. Technology was evolving. Then we moved to this phone. This phone played a big part of my life. It was the first cell phone I had. I was a sophomore in college. This is when butt dialing and pocket dialing started happening. That really became standard. So this was, I was 19 years old, and again, to reiterate, I did not grow up with an iPad in my hand. I did not grow up with the computer. The first memory of a computer I had was when I was about 5th or 6th grade in small Catholic grade school in Chicago, and me and my buddies were waiting to play Oregon Trail, if anyone remembers that, on the green screen Apple computer. Then we evolved to the BlackBerry. How many people in this room had a BlackBerry? How many people in this room have a BlackBerry today? 1. All right, 2. So, and then we moved to the Android, okay? Then we moved into the iPhone, into where we are today in the smartphone category. So I asked you, how many people today would go back to that box phone? How many people would go back in the evolution of technology? So with BlackBerry's a great example. 2002, BlackBerry came out. It was the first time that email was on the phone. Business was changing as it is. By 2005, BlackBerry stock was over $170 a share. They were on top of the world. They were leading mobile. Anyone know what BlackBerry stock is today? $6. 6, and they're ready to be extinct from history. Then we look at a company like Apple. Apple's a company that, when I was prepping for this, I was trying to figure out, and I came across that Apple was, in 1997, was 90 days away from bankruptcy. I can't fathom that to where they are today. 90 days away from bankruptcy. So what happened? Steve Jobs, made good with Bill Gates, and Bill Gates gave him $150 million to put the Microsoft Office platform on the Mac. He used that injection of cash to eventually evolved to change. 4 years later, the iPod came out, and the rest is history. We think about it, why did BlackBerry fail? They did not embrace technology and adapt to change. Apple is a company, in 2012, was the first company in over 20 years to beat Coca-Cola for the most recognized brand in the world. Pretty remarkable that a company that's nearly bankrupt 20 years ago is now the most recognized brand in the world. So I ask you, do you guys want to be BlackBerry, or do we want to be Apple? It's a question that when you think about it, is why are they where they are? We need to adapt to change. What are we doing in our dealerships to grow? I think, all the statistics, 3 to 5% annually, that cut sheet copy paper is going away. I could think it's even a little higher than that. What are we doing to embrace new categories? Janitorial, break room. What are we doing to change our dealerships to companies that are going to move into the future? Printing, promotional, right? Warehousing, safety. These are categories that we're all in front of the customers anyway. What are we doing to use technology to help us move our business into the next generation? It's something that with the change that happens, we need to understand that the pace is not slowing down. I love this analogy. It's something like we've been on a treadmill. We've been moving the same pace for the last however many years. We're moving along. And now Amazon comes down with their little drone, and they start pushing the pace of that treadmill faster and faster and faster. If we don't pick up our pace, we're going to fall off that treadmill and be left behind. We all can agree. I read in the technology, the OPI technology deal that was being passed out. Don't even really know the company, but Staples just bought a $67 million tech company. Everything about that issue, Walmart's buying tech companies, Amazon's buying companies left and right. Granted, we don't have the budgets that they have, but what are we doing to at least try to keep up? Because the pace is moving so quickly. So how can we do this? How can we begin to get involved in technology to help our businesses. And I want to talk about just a few quick things and reiterate the fact that I did this by need. This was not out of a definitive, I'm going to be a tech guy. Again, I'm tech dependent. I don't really know how it works, but when push comes to shove and your business might fail, you start figuring out ways to survive, and technology was our way. So one of the easiest things, how many people in the room use Microsoft Outlook as the primary email function? Right? About 2/3 of the room, I'd say. Outlook's a great product, we used it. One of the challenges with Outlook is that as a small business, you have to go to each machine. You have to put the email addresses on each machine. When an employee comes or goes, there's a lot of time that is managed to take that email address off, clean that computer, get it ready for the new person. Not to mention, this became a huge challenge when we opened our office in Houston, Texas, because it was now we had no connectivity with email, one of the most fundamental functions of business today. So we use Google Apps for Business, okay? And I want to talk about the cloud. How many people are familiar with the cloud out there? Right? Everyone's heard of it. How many people, when they hear the cloud, Gary, I got no button here. There we go. How many people, when you hear the cloud, think of something like this? Scary storm, and the reality is, guys, we are either driving into that cloud or it's coming to us. I want to just use an analogy to make this very simplistic. I think there's a lot of confusion at times. All the cloud is off-site external storage. That's it. Think about a little small external hard drive that you have that maybe you store photos on or you save movies on that's connected with that little USB cord. All the cloud simply is external storage that we use the internet to connect to versus a cord. That's all it is. To some type of server farm somewhere around the US that we're connected. The beauty of it is, and how it's really helped us, is that no matter where I am, I love to travel. I can be anywhere around the world, keep my pulse on my business. When I was in Houston a few weeks back, our internet went out for about 15, 20 minutes. Granted, it wasn't the biggest deal, came back on, but had it have been out for longer, we could have went to a coffee shop and been up and running. How about Gmail? Gmail's a platform, I'm talking about email. Gmail's a platform that I'm sure everybody in the room is at least familiar with. How about this one? Facebook. More people are familiar with Facebook. If you're using Gmail, you're using Facebook, you're already using the cloud. When you go on your Facebook, Facebook is not on your computer. Your news feed as it comes through, it's pulling from the internet, just like it was on external storage. So, with that being said, we use Google Apps for Business, the email platform. If anyone's familiar with it, Microsoft 365 is another competitor. It's nearly free, is one of the best. It's $5 per user per month. I can set up users from a computer. I can set up users wherever I am in the world, send my employee their information. They log on from any computer, any tablet, any phone. They're up and running. Not to mention all the different email addresses. Nothing's on the computer. It's extremely simplistic and extremely functional, and something that we were wrapping our brain how to do it. I don't know if anybody has ever had the issue where you send an email from your phone and it doesn't show up on your computer, and then you get your tablet and it's not on there. That's a challenge. So what I really want to, there's with the 3 different generations of people in this room today, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day if you're a baby boomer, if you're a Gen X, you're a Gen Y. The reality is technology is not slowing down. What are we doing to embrace it? What are we doing to push our industry collectively as a whole? What are we doing to push the wholesalers, to push the back office software companies, which in my opinion are all way behind where the industry actually is? What are we doing to give our salespeople the tools every day they need in the field to have the data on their mobile? Talking about mobile, guys, there's a survey that happens every year, 500 million website views of national retailers. 2012, 13% of those mobile views were, 13% of those views were on mobile. In 2013, 1 year later, 27%, over double of those same 500 million views were on mobile. We can't neglect mobile. Is our website mobile compatible? When a customer goes on, can they order, can they search, can they do all these things very quickly? Or are they going to go to Amazon? These are the things that we need to be thinking about. So at the end of the day, technology's here. I think we all can agree with that. We need to embrace technology and adapt to change. Again, I am not tech savvy. I'm simply tech dependent. I challenge each one of you to go back to your market, even at a simplistic level, embrace technology, adapt to change. It'll help you save money, save time, and most importantly, grow your business. Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, let me see a show of hands. How many of you have your websites mobile compatible today? Looks like y'all have some work to do. Something to think about. Okay, so our last